Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Um, Thank you, Dr. Adwali, for the introduction and for giving me this opportunity. Um, Sister Zainab asked me a couple of weeks ago to talk about something related to our children and our parents. Um, and I thought one of the things in discussion with Sister Zainab, I thought that one of the things that might be um, something that we need to deal with in our day-to-day life with our children would be how to um, discipline our children. I am trying to make this strategies for child discipline. So it is very obvious. I don't need to explain that sometimes we need to discipline our children. Um, what to do, how to do it, what to do, what to not do, and what to consider. So this is what we are going to discuss. I would like this to be interactive. So if there is any questions, or if you have any comments or anything, if anything is not clear, please feel free to just jump in. This is very casual. There's nothing formal about this. Please make this very interactive. So, uh, tarbiyah or upbringing of our children. I'm going to claim something here. I'm saying that by far the best strategy for how to go about our children's upbringing is, and I would like you to just think about it for a couple of seconds and tell me what you think. How should we conclude that sentence? What do you think is the best strategy for bringing our children?
Personally, I don't have much experience, but I think isolation is not the behavior. They educating them not to use the bad effect to the family instantly.
Educating them not to use.
Example, there's the just to make the another saying the if you want to isolate the kid not to go after the wrong words and to use it, it's almost impossible. Based on my experience, I think if we can be able to teach them somehow to say that there are bad words, try not to use them.
Uh-huh.
If
So
instead of rather than isolate them.
instead of isolating them, let them be exposed because they will be exposed anyway, but educating them.
That's
Okay.
is our behavior.
Our behavior.
Almost.
I'm going to agree with you in this. So yes, I do agree with you. While everything else, including what you said, is very important, but I'm going to say that by far the best strategy for how to go about our children's upbringing is to think about tarbiyah for ourselves. If you want to have a very good child with the best tarbiyah, think about yourself, how to do that for yourself. And then your child will be okay. So in natural balagh, we read, من نصب نفسه للناس إماما فعليه أن يبدأ بتعليم نفسه قبل تعليم غيرهم. Uh, any volunteers to translate this for us? من نصب نفسه للناس إماما فعليه أن يبدأ بتعليم نفسه قبل تعليم غيره.
On their better or you must first train himself. Percent. And think them in eight lesser.
Yes, there is lots of learn. The most beautiful thing. The most beautiful. Accent, yes. Whoever appoints himself or herself as an imam for the people And here, the imam is not necessarily like the leader of the country or the president or the prime minister or even the non-politician. Yes, all of that is true. But if you are in any kind of position of authority, if you're a dad, if you're a mom, if you're a teacher, all of us are in that position of authority. Whoever appoints himself or herself as an imam for the people, it is necessary فعليه, for him or for her to begin by educating himself or herself before educating others. وليكن تأديبه بسيرته قبل تأديبه بلسانه. His or her discipline should be through his or her actions before his or her speech.
Wow.
So you cannot just tend all the time and do good actions. I mean, you cannot do, yes, you can do this today for something and pretend something. But if you want to really do tarbiyah to your child, you need to do tarbiyah to yourself first, because then everything you do is according to the Prophet's blessings and his teaching to us, and then your child will learn. You don't need to educate them anymore. You need to just watch you. Now, so that's the main thing I wanted to mention tonight. So if you get it, nothing else from this song, that's good enough. That's the best. But now let's talk a bit more about discipline. So discipline helps children learn how to regulate their emotions, make good decisions, and interact positively with others. So that is the main purpose of discipline. We are not disciplining our children for the sake of just doing it or to relieve ourselves or anything like that. We do that to regulate their emotions, to make good decisions and interact positively with others. Discipline should not, therefore, be just a reaction. Uh, that's the most difficult part of it. It's about guiding behavior. So if you see your child is doing something wrong, the easiest thing is just to react to, oh, don't do that, or yelling at him and saying something. But that's just a reaction. So if you want to teach, as we said, so it's all about regulating their emotions. So how can you do that if you're not regulating their own emotions? That's the first step. So you should have the utmost control over your emotions and regulating your emotions to be able to discipline your child in that way instead of just reacting to what they do. Different approaches to discipline can have varying impacts on child development. There are multiple approaches to discipline. You have most likely heard some of these things, at least like positive reinforcement, timeouts, natural consequences or logical consequences of their actions, and setting clear expectations, and so on. But specifically, I would like to focus a bit more on that positive reinforcement that is up there. So in 1953, uh, a psychologist, Skinner, came up with this theory, and he called it operant conditioning. In this theory, he's talking about how to promote or discourage an animal. He was working with animals at that point, to do something, to encourage a behavior or to do something so that they don't do that behavior. How do we do that? How do we go about that? So now he came up with this plan theory with four quadrants here. Now, if you add or give something to that animal in order to to do something for the animal, you call it a positive. And if you take out or remove something in order to promote that, that's and we call it negative. Now, in the other dimension, uh, if you do something in order to promote that behavior to happen more often, we call it reinforcement. And then if you do something for that behavior to happen less frequently, we call it punishment. Now, so if you complete the four quadrants, it will be something like this. So, for example, in this dimension, if you do something to encourage a behavior to happen more often, that's reinforcement. But reinforcement can be positive or negative. It will be positive if you add or give something to that animal, then that's positive reinforcement. But if you take out something in order to encourage that behavior, that's negative reinforcement. Now, here, for the punishment, if you add or give something to the animal to discourage the animal for that behavior so that it doesn't happen again or less often, that's positive punishment. And if you take out something to discourage that animal from that behavior, that's negative punishment. Now, I would like you to come up with examples for each of those problems. Let's do the easiest one, positive reinforcement. Give me an example for positive reinforcement. So here we are giving the child or the animal, uh, giving something to them to encourage a behavior to happen more often. What would be an example?
Like a toy to finish a book.
Exactly. Like giving them a gift, a present, for something good for each group.
The more book, the more book.
Yeah, exactly. So to give them presents, to if you read more books, for each book I give you this much, or I give you this present. That's positive reinforcement. Now, give me an example for something, still reinforcement. So we're encouraging a behavior, but we're taking out, we're taking away something from them to encourage them to do a behavior more often. If they some sort of activity, if they misbehave or you take away that activity, maybe if they're good hockey, if they misbehave, the way that they don't go to hockey only, for example, or those skate if you're like. So so this is in reinforcement. So you're trying to encourage a behavior to happen more often. So what behavior are you encouraging to happen more often in that example? Misbehave. Not to misbehave, that's a negative. So yeah. So you need to take away something to encourage a behavior to happen more often.
For example, if a task that they do, we can remove that task from the bunch and do it in book day. Huh? For example, that they used to tidy their bed, but on their bed, we say like if you pray, Lord, not to fire after them.
Yeah, that's very good. Like chores, all kind of chores. So you can tell them if you do something good that you are encouraging to do or happen. If you do this, then you don't need to do your chores for today. We'll do it for you. So you're taking away the chores to encourage them to do something, a behavior more often, right? So that would be negative reinforcement. So far, I haven't heard anything from sisters. Just keep in mind. Um,
People actually love by workers. مسيرة الأدolescente. Le livre le centre, le livre c'est.
you will have some positive punishment. Okay, this should be also very obvious. Positive punishment. So you are adding something, you're doing something, giving something to discourage a behavior. What would be an obvious example? Yeah. No, giving a chore if, like for what? If they're not behaving, you'll give them extra chore. Yeah. Yeah.
And today you have to offer different services.
Very good. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, very good example. Adding to their chores if they're misbehaving, or I don't know, physical punishment, or like that. That's another positive. I'm not encouraging this. I'm just giving. I'm just saying that this is an example of positive punishment. Um, and then lastly, negative punishment is you're taking away something to discourage a behavior. What would be an example?
Taking privileges and
Yeah, you take the privileges away in order to
discourage the bad behavior.
discourage the behavior. Yeah. So, are we clear on like what these means? So that's the basis and the core of this operant conditioning. So this is a very powerful tool. Like as I said, Skinner did this to animals. Like this is hardwired in it. You can do this to mice. You can do this to any kind of animal and train them this way. And it works for human beings as well because we are all animals. Now, one thing that is very important is consistency. Even if you work with animals for the mice, if you do it once and then you don't do it next time, or you do it one day and you don't do it next day, it's not going to work. If you want it to work, you need to be consistent. So consistency is the key to effective discipline. Children thrive in environments where rules and expectations are consistent. Inconsistent discipline can lead to confusion and misbehavior. Okay, I understand that everybody is kind of now in probably another world, and it's after iftar, so I'll try to be as fast as I can. Now, teaching children to regulate their emotions is a critical part of discipline. Discipline should aim at teaching children to handle frustration, anger, and other emotions effectively. So I'm just emphasizing it in different ways because I want you to know that discipline should not be a reaction. There should be a purpose behind it, and it should be very controlled. So you need to have utmost control over your emotions and regulating your emotions in order to teach that to your child. Otherwise, it'll be the quite the opposite exactly. And that's what we will teach them. Emotion coaching is a strategy where parents help children understand and label their emotions. So labeling, so there's a lot in each of these sentences that we can talk about, but we're not going to because it will be too long. Now, so I just want to mention another example because this uh, this theory that we just mentioned, operant conditioning, is not everything that is about a discipline. There are a lot of other things, including, for example, attachment relationships and how that works. So there is secure attachment, which means a strong, loving bond between child and caregiver, forms the foundation for children to learn self-control and social norms. I'm just going to, this is a theory, attachment theory based on that, um, and that all we came up with in 1969. Um, there are four types of attachment styles. Only one of them is secure. The other three are insecure. I'm not going to go into details of those. That's for another day, inshallah. Now, harsh punishments can be counterproductive and detrimental. So I just want to emphasize that in a lot of studies, yes, there are four quadrants to that, but it's not that they're not all the same in your uh, educating in the tazia of your child. Because usually punishments um, might have more detrimental consequences, so it should be very, very measured. Research has shown that punitive methods like spanking can increase aggression and anxiety in children. Positive discipline strategies are more effective in promoting long-term behavioral change. So there are some studies, as I said, for example, in this one that shows spanking and corporal punishment have been linked to negative outcomes. And then the other side as well, positive discipline strategies are associated with improved behavior and self-esteem. So discipline isn't just about external control, it's about helping children learn self-discipline, allowing children to experience the natural consequences of their own actions helps them develop self-regulation. So there are things that they need to learn as a natural consequence of their own action. So they have to learn that, for example, if they forgot to take the lunch to school, they might remain hungry that day. It's a natural consequence of what they do. If every single time they forget their lunch, you take the lunch later to them, if you do that every single time, they're not going to learn that consequence. They think that this is how world works, which is not true. So they should learn that there are some actions that have some natural consequences. Another skill is to teach them problem solving skills. If single time that they have a problem, you solve that problem for them, they're not going to learn how to problem solve. So you need to sit with them and teach them how to problem solve for themselves. And obviously, you start that from very small problems, and then you go on to more complicated ones. But that's how they learn it. Otherwise, they're just not going to learn this. They'll think that this is how this world works. Every single time there is somebody else who will come and rescue me, which is again not true. Cultural values and parenting styles influence disciplinary practices as well. Different cultures have different norms regarding acceptable behavior and how to discipline. So, as we all know, in different cultures, we discipline children differently, but be aware of legal consequences in this society. Sometimes some people have a duty to report, so be careful about that. Now, there are different parenting styles. For example, these are some of the examples: authoritarian, authoritative, permissive, and neglectful. For example, for the first two, there's a big difference between those two. Authoritarian parenting demands strict obedience through rigid rules and punishments. In other way, it's my way or the highway, often lacking warmth. So we all know probably some parenting styles that have seen probably this or heard about it. On the other hand, there is this authoritative parenting, uh, which balances high expectations with high responsiveness, support, and open communication, fostering independence and self discipline. So, yes, you are the one who sets the rules, but at the same time, you try to be as kind as you can while you're being as firm as you can. So, it's both together. So, how to balance that? That's an art that we should learn. So, we are approaching the end of this discussion. Practical strategies to incorporate into your daily discipline practices. First one, don't be reactive. Use discipline to guide and help your child. Use positive reinforcement when you're trying to promote a new behavior, but be cautious of the consequences of overusing it. So, if every single time you do this, obviously, that's another problem because then the child will expect you that every time they want to do something, they need a prize. Otherwise, they won't do that. So, be careful about overusing it. Allow children to experience the natural consequence of their own actions. Um, so make sure what you're teaching the child. Yes, it's good to be helpful, but be careful about what you're teaching them. If you teach them that this world is very flexible, very permissive, uh, then that's what they learn. And then later on, when they're independent in this out there, then uh, they're going to learn it the hard way that that's not the case or with works differently. Set clear and consistent rules. So you need to be consistent with your rules, otherwise, it's not going to work. Practice patience and emotion coaching. Be mindful of your own emotional regulation when disciplining. Use authoritative parenting instead of authoritarian. Be both kind and firm. And teach them problem solving skills instead of solving their problems for them. In conclusion, we should be role models, not just righters of wrongs for our children. The ultimate goal of discipline is to help children develop into responsible, emotionally regulated, and socially competent individuals. Discipline is about teaching, not just correcting, and use evidence based practices that promote healthy emotional and behavioral development. I think, okay, the one last thing research shows that warm, consistent discipline promotes resilience and success in children. I think that's it. Okay, thank you. So let's see if there are any questions, discussions, and I'll invite everybody to also participate in answering those as well. Yeah, Alaikum salam.
In the school that lived with the fear of parents, i.e., if we don't do something, there's going to be a negative consequence from our parents. Um, and then moving to the West, a lot of us have realized we are not able to use those techniques anymore. Some of them are harsh, non-Islamic, so on and so forth. Um, as a parent of children who are now having access to screens and media, I find that that's one of the easiest thing to do. But is it a good idea to control our children's behavior through screens? For example, if you did X, Y, and Z, now I'm going to take over your screen time or your daily time. Is that something that's okay, or does it have other outputs?
So, very good questions. That I repeat the question in case it wasn't recorded here. Um, the question is that we all familiar with some other ways of disciplining, including positive punishment or different kind of punishment. And now we live in West, and um, for example, a lot of times we might use screen as bribery, basically, for our children to do something. Um, is a good idea? How much of it is good? How much is not? I would say that it's like any other positive reinforcement strategy. As I said in the presentation, I said that be careful about overusing it. So that includes this as well. So in general, overusing positive reinforcement can cause a problem. But more specifically about screening, we know that screening itself, for example, nowadays they say that below 2 years old, no screen. After that, just add a little bit, but a little bit is really like a few minutes per day, and then gradually you can increase it. But I would argue that probably for the school time, not more than like 1 hour per day. That's probably too much already. Um, so we know that too much screening by itself is a problem, let alone if we use it as a positive reinforcement. So yes, it does work. It works very well, but then it causes other problems. We know how addictive it is, for example. That's a new addiction. They are now thinking about adding it to the DSM as like internet addiction and other things. So yes, it obviously it has its own problem, but very good point. Thank you.
Okay, we have 5 minutes now. Just point it smartly, please, the person who is next to you. So ask your partner a real problem that you have seen in your child or other children, for example. For example, I in my child, for example, when he was 3, 4 years old, I asked him to do something, but he didn't listen to me. Okay, so what should I do? You know, give a real example to your partner and ask him or her to help you. Okay, so you have 5 minutes. Please find a partner. Find a partner. Yes. Okay, and ask me a question. Tomorrow there is no school. Tomorrow there is no school. Go to work. We have time. So I ask